Thank you, Raisa. It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for all these very interesting presentations in this morning. So, I'm going to tell you about the past times, not in the future, but maybe we can think that all this information can also use in the future world. Some may think traditions are archaic and no longer relevant, and that they are unnecessary during these modern times. At the same time, many think that culture and heritage are one of the main ways that humans define who they are. They often express a sense of community and ethnicity. Culture and heritage invite cross-cultural communication. They teach openness towards those who are different from each other. By putting people in touch with our own and other people's feelings, the culture or heritage teach one of the great civilized capacities, how to feel empathy. Oops. Oh. Oh, yes. Sorry. So, cultural heritage can provide an automatic sense of unity and belonging within a group and allows us to better understand previous generations and the history of where we are come from. The heritage cycle helps explain the process of finding and incorporating culture into our lives. It begins with understanding the culture. Only then may we begin to value it. From there, we can learn to care for a culture and eventually enjoy it. With more enjoyment, we will want to learn and understand more, and so the circle goes. Today, my focus is to give you 3 examples of Finnish traditional celebrations, which have become unfamiliar for modern people. Their background is in the deep of Finnish mythology and the respectful stance for nature. They all tell also about a belief in spirits, which is a central element of traditional culture. Believing in spirits represents the old belief that all places from the home heart on the woods and mountains are inhabited by human-like creatures called spirits, or väki in Finnish. Väki means supernatural power and also the races of haltias and their magical powers. The spirits can help people at home by doing some jobs or awaken people when danger lurked. On the other hand, some spirits weren't all the time nice. For example, the wood sprites made people get lost in the forest. And here you can see one of the most important deities in Finland. It's Ukko, what we can see in the nature as a thunder. And akka we normally see in the yards. In the rowan tree, it's a rauni, like akka. And it's very sexual person, like it actually gives us a power, and it gives also the sexuality for women. The first literal source in Finnish popular belief is the list of deities given by Mikael Agricola in his foreword of his Psalter in 1551. He mentions 11 gods from Häme and 12 from Karelia. The most important lines in Agricola's list concern ritual titled Ukon vakat, ritual drinking arranged in Ukko's honor. Ukko is the only mythical creature whose feasts are known. And here is just a couple of deities mentioned, but in the last line there is something about Ukko, and it continues. There is also in the Old Finnish and some translation in English. In 1545, farmers in Savo were fined for drinking a toast to Ukko. And in 1662, farmers in Hauho drank 6 jugs of beer during a dry season in order to bring rain. Agricola may have had his information from his brother-in-law, who served as a bailiff in Savonlinna and Savonia in the early 1540s, where he has fined a group of farmers for celebrating toast to Ukko. The fine was so large that it was probably shared by a large group of participants during the sowing time. In Ukon vakka, the villages gathered together on the shores of the lake in the village with beer. While singing the words for Ukko, the organizer also splashes the water with his hands, imitate rain, and drank his ale. There were also lots of food to share together. I don't necessarily mean that Ukon vakka feast could be a good education idea for children or young people at school. But on the other hand, I feel that there could be need to do cultural heritage education also among adults. I have arranged celebrations of Ukon vakka in work communities. I have noticed that, for example, singing Kalevala together might be a totally new experience for adults. And of course, eating together is always a good idea, but also to hear something about the history of our own beer brewing and also all those stories behind of our own culture. Actually, Kalevala is easy to sing in many kinds of tunes, and let's see if we can hear. This is one of my colleagues who is a singer also, and yeah. Yeah. So this was the song what he was singing. So the second example is Karhunpeijaiset, meaning the feast which was held after a successful bear hunt. There are historical sources already from 17th century in eastern Finland and Häme. The bear was the most respected animal of the ancient Finnish forest, and the bear was a symbol of the whole tribe and a sacred animal. It wasn't even allowed to say the word bear, so there are over 200 names for bear in Finnish, and there are some of them mentioned. Some of them are not so nice, actually, for bear. Yeah. The celebrations of the bear was almost like a play or performance. In Finland, ritual bear hunting took place in three main stages. First, slaying of the bear. Second, feast in honor of the dead bear. And third, reincarnation of the bear, returning the bear skull and bones back into the forest. Each stage of the Finnish hunting drama has had its dedicated songs in the old so-called Kalevala meter. And this is the first song what they normally sang when they were ready to go to the forest. And it's the origin of the bear. One of the oldest and only coherent descriptions of the Finnish bear rite is the so-called Viitasaari text. It was probably written by a clergyman staying in the parish of Viitasaari in the end of the 17th century. The manuscript contains an account of how the hunters prepared for slaying the bear and how a feast, which actually were bear's wedding party, was held. Finally, the bear's skull and bones were carried to the forest and the skull suspended from a special tree, a bear skull pine. And there you can see that bear's skull is in the middle of the tree, sacred tree. The bear wedding, or Karhunpeijaiset, is actually the easiest event to arrange, in my opinion, because the manuscript is already quite original and exotic, and there are exact details what to do. We have done Karhunpeijaiset a couple of times as the evening program of seminars. The program contained Kalevala poems, singing, stories, and food and drinks. And there is one of my colleagues, Lea, who is singing those poems. And my last example is Kekri feast. In an agricultural society, the end of the year came naturally at the end of the harvest. The New Year celebration in the autumn was known as Kekri, or Kaori, or Kaori. Originally, the jubilation was not settled on a particular day. It depended on the yearly weather conditions and the progress of work, and it could vary from the summer to late autumn. A typical Kekri involved massive feasting and drinking. People remembered their dead by offering them food. One popular Kekri tradition was to dress up as a female Kekritar or as a Kekri buck with horns, knock on people's door and ask for food and drink. It looks a little bit like Halloween party nowadays. The Kekri buck and Kekritar woman walked from house to house and asked for food treats and were usually treated to delicacies. If a house should refuse to offer anything good for the guests, they might threaten to break the oven, which was the most important thing in that time houses. And there you can see the old Kekri buck, which was a little scary for children. And there was also the proverb that you should eat 7 meals in Kekri day, and then you can go to sleep. So if you didn't eat so many meals, the coming harvest would be very bad. Like it symbolized the food mount. I have arranged a couple of times very big Kekri festivals in Mikkeli, and here are some examples how I think that you could use Kekri in education. And actually nowadays people, even the porridge can be quite exotic to eat in very, like if you have made it in good way. So the Kekri porridge was very traditional way to eat, and there is some traditional food as well. And this song is from Kalevala, and there are a lot of mentions that this was the Kekri song. Like people used to sing this, actually men used to sing this when they was a little bit drunk, and yeah, it's quite nice to sing it again together. And here are some examples with the children, and actually it's quite easy way, for example, to make these buck masks, or making fortune telling, which was very popular way in Kekri. We can see the second thing. First we made this mask, and then some media education. I think somebody could say that it's not a very nice idea to modernize old habits in this way, but I think it's easier to tell about the history when you have something connection even in the future or nowadays world. So the target of cultural heritage education is to deepen the cultural competence, information, skills and experiences regarding diverse cultural heritage, and to support identity building, involvement in culture and society, and the fulfillment of cultural rights. Thank you.